Okay, so this is day number 2. Hi, John.
Hi,
Tom. Going back over the repairs that we did yesterday. What you can see up, God bless.
So where would you like to start?
All right, so guys, just recap quickly here what we've got from yesterday, right? So Nordbak is cured overnight. It was a 5 or 6 hour cure time. We've given it more like, let's see at this point.
12?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
maybe more.
nah, let's see, if we did it at 5 o'clock, yeah, even more, right? So even more, right? What you see over here is you got the excess grit. You know, we over grit everything, and that was and we just laid it on top. So you remember that there's a question of whether you mix it in and you force it in, or do you just leave it on top? That's part of what we're going to test today with the wheel over there. But this is all the excess grit that didn't dry and absorb into the material. We could vacuum that up and use it again. Going to walk you by here some of the different repairs over there.
This is the one that we did half.
Hold on one second, Jason. That's sort of the original, right? So that's shiny, right? And then you see that you get to there. That's where we get to a bunch of the different repairs. Okay, over here. This, Jason, why don't you put your finger back there again? That's going to be a particularly interesting dividing line, because that was the spot where we had a clean piece of deck down to the aluminum, if I recall correctly. We can go back and check the video.
No, I think that was actually just a burn hole.
Just a burn hole? Okay,
Yep.
so just a burn hole. We'll go back and check to be sure. But on this side of it, right?
That's where
we smoothed the grit in. It's going to be interesting to see how that stands. And on this side of it, we did not. We did smooth the grit in, and then we over grit it on top of it again, right?
Yep.
So gonna be interesting to see there. And we're gonna look at all the different, how it holds up underneath all the different areas of prep. So with that as a backdrop, boys, where do you want to start?
You might as well start. We can start on right here.
Yeah, we'll start right there. Okay. So, and just a reminder in terms of the protocol of what we've done, right? We've got a bot wheel on a drill there, right? We're why don't you do a spot, Jason, that is just the deck first, right? Just so we see how the deck, how the deck gets treated by a bot wheel. Maybe just even, over there. And again, what we're doing here on the deck is with no additional pressure. This is just, this is like the Beatles, let it be, right? So go ahead. Okay, so that's a couple of seconds, right? But that's Jason. That's no pressure, right? That is literally just the weight of the wheel that's on it, and that's what it does going through the regular deck. Let's hit this one first. Okay.
Which side does it matter?
Doesn't matter. How do you? Okay, so this one, this is
rubber. That's wheel.
That's wheel. So this is particularly interesting, right? Although I feel a divot right there.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one, because that's a place where we stuck the grit. We smoothed it in with a putty knife, and then on top of that, we did not over grit it again. So interesting that by driving the grit into it, the Nordbak is less robust in terms of dealing with wear. More robust than the deck, would you say, right?
Yes.
More robust than the deck, but less robust than otherwise. Okay, all right. So that's one.
Let's go on this half now that
yep.
we did smush the grit into.
Yep. Well, no. So this is one. So remember what we did here. We smushed the grit into it. We smushed the grit into it, and then we over grit it. Is what we did in this spot. So in terms of having that divot again there, that's not surprising to us, because we believe that by smushing the grit into it, you end up creating a situation where the material doesn't cure as well, it doesn't bond as robustly, and you've got friction that pulls it apart. So that has real implications for how we use this as a repair, because the mixing and the application, etc., is really important. So before we go on to another one with grit, I want to take folks through this one, which is basically the no grit scenario, and show them that
That went right through.
That went right through?
That was a fully prepped surface.
Mm-hmm.
but it was very thin. If you look.
Yep.
We said it was thin. Remember when I took out too much of it yesterday?
Yep.
I said I took too much out, and you can see it. It's not even up over the edge of the tape.
So the amount of material that you end up putting down is also ends up being important, right? Yeah. So we've got you can see it right here. I don't know. Hopefully you can see it on the video, but you can see sort of a seam where this isn't even any really amount of material. This is almost just a film of it in terms of how much we actually
we've seen that before.
What we actually put down. So that's sort of as expected. Right. So in that case, that demonstrates that getting the level of thickness that we get to in terms of laying this down for a repair is also pretty important. Yep. Okay. Yep. All right. So let's see. Which one do we want to do next, fellas?
So you can do this. This is unprepped again. This whole repair is unprepped.
Right.
So we're looking to see if unprepped works.
So this is gonna be an interesting one. All right, so that would lead us to believe that I feel a little bit of a divot there, John. I want to get your. I mean, that's more than optics in my mind.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a divot. It looks like it went through the top surface.
Maybe it just needed to be thicker. It might have been.
We're gonna find out as we go across, right? We're gonna find out as we go across. Okay. So what's this one?
So that was a round hole melt.
That was just a round burn like this that we just untouched, untreated.
That's pretty good.
No, that didn't. You can't really feel much. You can feel a small amount, but not much at all.
Yeah, exactly. Meaningfully, meaningfully better.
So in this instance, I would take this. I'd be all over this whole thing. Applying pressure, you can hear the drill bobbing down. And that's all rubber from the wheel.
Okay, so anybody who's been watching this,
smell that rubber.
Yeah, you can definitely smell it here. So anybody who's been watching this has been looking at it, say where if I were watching, I'd be saying to myself, where's the beef about this repair methodology? Because I see us having punched a bunch of holes in it. This is exactly what we're talking about, right? By getting the right thickness of the material and getting a bunch of grit on top. You saw John actually really going after it meaningfully harder than Jason had been, and you also see that I mean, the answer is you can get through this if you try. You can get through this, but it is meaningfully better than anything else. And you saw how much time John had, that he was putting against that with additional pressure. So punchline so far is that we need to look at a couple of more spots where we have not done prep and not done prep work to look at the difference sort of between the two. But so far, this would suggest that prep work makes a difference, right? In terms of repair. Without prep work is still better than nothing. But given that we have the time, probably. We got to figure out the exact methodology behind that. We got to test a couple of more spots.
How much do we have to prep?
Exactly. That's going to be the operative question. Okay, let's.
This repair, this was loaded with plastic. Right? Just the tape off and plastic still stuck to the deck. Look, I'm going to stay aggressive.
Yeah, please do. All right, so you can see the material. I can see some element of grit flying there.
That's pretty good.
So this is interesting. This is an important one here, right? Because we had effectively an area that was in meaningfully worse condition, did not have any prep done to it. You saw some of the grit come out and fly as part of the abrasion that John was putting against it. You were being more aggressive in terms of how you were pushing against. It wasn't just simply the weight of the drill and the wheel. You were actually getting into that. And so when you actually feel this, you still have grit that's down there, right? And you still have and you haven't burned through it yet, at this point. So that's actually
I mean, we're still going to have some of the surface grit's still going to be in here, right? So we're going to see grit still coming off. Like if I go like that, just put a piece of sandpaper, I still have grit because we didn't. All we did was wipe it off.
Exactly, we wiped it. We didn't vacuum it, right? So there hasn't been an attempt to turn this into a, you know, I mean,
it hasn't been cleaned up. It hasn't been anything.
Exactly. This was. Right, so the grit that we saw flying out of this repair shouldn't really surprise anybody. Right. Some of that came out of the material. Some of that also would have been just simply surface grit that was just not vacuumed up.
Absolutely. Okay. And it's still gritted underneath. That's the
key. This piece underneath here. Right. I would consider to have about the same degree of grit as the travel lanes where the bots travel. Right. So it's worn down more than this. Right. But there's still grit there. And it's you're gonna get traction off that, and also importantly, you don't have any significant divots.
No, that's because the particulate sank down within the repair. So if I loosen this up a little bit, it gets some of the grit off. We should see less grit leaving. So this was another repair that is just untreated, and there's all kinds of garbage under here. There's melted tape in here. There's plastic. There's
So this would be like if you were just going at if you were just putting the material on effectively in the raw. Right. Literally just if you just went up on the deck and just sort of brushed away the, you know, obvious loose contaminants, and then just, you know, went at it with the material. So let's see. I don't know if you can see on the video, but there is some degree of grit flying into the air. Not a lot. I would say 10% of what we saw beforehand. In terms of feeling this, right? It looks like a lot has come up, but that is visual. That is not something you actually feel here, right? This spot does not feel that different from this spot, right? That's actually just.
We got some melted rubber here.
I think that's gray from the rubber, right? You know, from the plastic backing that was and probably some off the wheel as well. This that's actually great news. So seeing what we saw here was an unprepped area that was good and ugly, and you know, we applied a thick coat of material. We put the grit on top. We over gritted it, but we did not mix the grit into the material. And we put the grit on at probably somewhere, probably 15 minutes after the mixing of the product, right? And you know, this is terrific. And so, you know, Patrice, you've been particularly concerned about what if you do a repair and it hasn't been properly prepped. This would be, you know, sort of a poster child for you. You can, I mean, we'll determine whether it's actually how close and how good it is. But this is good, right? Good. Is it worth the extra time, effort, and energy to do the rest? I don't know. We're gonna figure that out as part of this rest of the test here. But even if we said no prep, but with the stuff mixed properly, applied with the right thickness, and over grit on top of it on a surface layer, you have a robust repair.
Pretty robust repair. So if we take on the outside edge of this repair, this is just on the deck tape itself. So if we run on and off of the deck tape for the repair itself, we'll see what kind of difference we get, right? I'll keep it away from you.
Okay. So in terms of there, what you see is that John did enough wear on it that you actually wore through the tape, and you got through that spot right there. Okay. And then, you know, using the same amount of pressure as it rolled back and forth from that, you know, from this, which is tape only, to this line right here, which is where a repair starts, to on top of the repair, we found that the same amount of abrasion created a hole in the original grip tape, but did not get through the repair.
And this is just right on the tape.
And so even places where you've got a tiny little hump, right? I don't know, that feels like a couple of millimeters, like millimeter, you know, 1, 2, 3, kind of, you know, no, 3. No. So call that 1, right? 1 millimeter differential between there. So not a lot of, you know, thickness and hump, but a hump for sure. At that line, we did not, you know, where you actually have the material, the repair material, that hump doesn't matter. Said another way, in terms of, whereas tape repairs, we found that any overlap in the tape made it meaningfully more likely that it will pop up, and more likely that it will get torn and be less robust than other spots. So that's really good. That's a great news, right?
Yep. So this is where, remember yesterday's video where we have like the repair in here, but then when we troweled it out, we have the difference in what actually gets onto the deck, and we gridded what was on the deck, and that's what this is here. Mm-hmm. That's the grit that was just right on the deck material itself, not in the hole.
I'm kicking myself for not having taken a clean picture of this. So, you have one somewhere?
I don't know.
I might.
Yeah, all right, so do you mind? If you'd look, because we can extract it from the video, but that's a boot on our part. Shame on me. Right. I booted that.
In here,
this did read unprepped, and from here to here was all kinds of like plastic goop after we peeled the tape up.
Yep.
That was just left. So
there's 2 repairs here. Comes down the middle, right? So this is just unprepped. This is just bot wheel taking out material.
Yep. That was all.
But not all the way to the steel, right? Exactly. This is probably the area that was most representative of most of the stuff we'll see on the deck in terms of problems.
Yep. Correct. And then this one, we took it out of the steel here, took it down to the steel here, prepped the surface, and this is with plastic on it, spotty, like what you see up there, where it's been burned through. So,
but it's different degrees of burn through, right? This is all the way. Everything off except the plastic, right? This is plastic, and this is most likely what you'd see, and it's the most undulating of conditions, right? It's got everything, sort of mixed material in there, right? So this would be the most difficult for the product to bond to, right? Because it's an uneven surface, it's inconsistent, inconsistent consistency.
All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll do the consistency first.
And so, John, are you pushing there?
I am putting pressure on. You can hear the drill, Bob. Yeah, if I take pressure off, then it kind of bounces, right? When it's by itself. When I push it down, you can hear the drill whine.
Yep. You can smell rubber, so we're at the very least we're getting, and you can also see some amount of grit being spun as well.
I'm hitting that edge again.
Okay. So it's interesting. So when you look at this, you look at it and you say to yourself, it looks like it looks like we really tore up the repair. When you actually physically feel it, it is still very gritty, and the surface is not uneven, right? So what you have is the material filled in the undulations in a way where it bonded well, and where it maintained the grit, and did not, upon significant duress, come up in a way that would suggest that repair directly on top of unprepped material is a bad idea, right? When I look at this, I look at it and I go, huh. Wow. That really suggests that we're getting a lot of bang for the buck without doing a lot of prep against it. What's going to be interesting to see, I think, as we get over here, once we've got spots that's been like, there's a spot over here that was clean as a whistle, right? Yep. And once we get to that spot, it's going to be interesting to see.
And once again, on this overflow, we tore right into the deck, but we did not touch. And this is just on tape right here. This outside 3/4 of an inch is just on the deck tape itself, not in the hole.
So on the tape only, we bore through it. Yep. With the Nordback plus grit on top of tape, we did not get through that at all. Right. And on the place that was all sort of torn up and was the rough surface, we didn't get through that either after, as you saw, a significant amount of time and a significant amount of pressure.
Good pressure, yep. So we try plastic next, where the plastic was. All right, so if I leave it start off just so that's the bounce, that's no pressure.
Just pull that off for a second, John. Let's take a look. So that first spot, on the video, you see a difference in appearance, but you don't feel it, right? You don't. That's not from here or let's say here, which is something we didn't hit at all, to here, there's no difference in, we haven't removed material, it's not thick. I'm not sure exactly what that is. That's some element of,
We're kind of changing color, right? We're taking off some of the grit. We're showing through some of the
Nordback
color that's already mixed in with the grit. So that stuff goes to light gray when it hits. So any grit that's dropped down in there, any surface grit we take off. So we cut the top of the Nordback a little bit. But so that was just normal pressure, and then I went to heavy, and I'll continue.
Keep going.
So you can hear it. You listen for the drill again, right?
As it's bouncing. Now, and then you see some of the top grit coming off, right?
And we'll go right to the outside edge again, too. There's a lot of cycles of a bot going on here. A lot of cycles.
There's a lot of rubber coming off too. I don't know if that's so much grit or rubber.
Right. So you saw here on the actual on the tape only. We're through the tape. On the spot where you've got the Nordback and the grit, I don't feel any meaningful. I mean, yes, you saw some stuff get kicked up. I don't feel any humps, nor do I feel any meaningful degradation in the amount of grit in certain sort of surface that'll have traction.
Right. And remember, we overloaded this, so there's a lot of excess grit that's just barely hanging on. We're just kicking it out.
Right. And again, the excess grit's over there. We could have vacuumed it off. We didn't.
Right. We could have wiped it down with like a denatured alcohol.
Yeah. So this was.
And right through the tape.
Again, this was just designed to be more of a, real world repair conditions, as opposed to drop everything, make everything perfectly pristine, and because we have the moment, be picky about it.
Right.
All right. So I think this spot over here and this spot over here are going to be interesting to see.
It will. So this one may be problematic because we know that we were already thin on material. This one had a good amount of material on it, so just wipe that down.
So both those spots were completely clean.
Yep. Right. So in essence, we would expect this spot to be. The question will be: is this spot more robust than this and this? This is sort of the money question for us.
Or does the material actually like
holding on to other stuff? Exactly. It may like a.
So you start off, you're going to get the wheel bounce, and then you'll
and then we'll work into it
down again. Right. Doing everything I can to get this grit off. To get this, I'm trying to bust through that repair.
Okay. All right. So over here, you see this is tape only, right? Over the edge. You're right through the tape right away. So again, demonstration, the repair methodology is meaningfully more robust than the tape as it is. As I feel this, I mean, again, on the video, right? You saw some grit getting kicked up here. In terms of a feel, there's not a lot of difference between what was an area we didn't touch, right here where my finger is, right, to areas where John got aggressive on it, right, and we did kick up some of the grit that was sort of loosely in it, and we got a significant amount of wheel that came off as well, demonstrating just, I mean, this is not staged, right? This is we're getting into it here. And yeah, it's that's terrific. That really is. That's really
it's a robust repair.
That's good. That's good stuff. So here's a question. So Jason,
that's what I was getting to. Which do you feel is better, the untreated or the treated?
I don't think there's a lot of difference.
I don't see. I mean, I don't see any difference, right? I mean, really so this is gonna be one of the great places where we can transfer this knowledge to Jeremy, and he's gonna, live fire, right? Pick two spots that look just like the same. Prep one, don't prep one. Yep. Run the hell out of it and see what happens. Same sort of thing we can do in a live environment on on new 20 now. Once we turn the electricity on in a week or two.
And the way you were going up and down and cross, I mean, anywhere else,
I
know, anywhere else you would feel divots, and you feel nothing.
I am trying to
exactly
leave the surface.
So Jason, I want to emphasize the point you just made there. The places where you hit it in two directions, right. would you expect to find some divots, etc. created, and you just don't have that, right? You just don't. You don't see it. You don't feel it.
It's pretty consistent all the way around.
It's pretty consistent. All right. So I think we got one last one to do, which is here, which sort of goes over grit on thin. And what thin? And this is a thin application of material.
We'll start off again with the bounce. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Tom. That's right. Laundry day. Laundry day for the Goundry household.
It sounds like the battery's dying.
That's how much pressure, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's step you guys through that. Okay. So here, tape only. We blew through it again, but everybody knows that at this point. The edge, right? This I would. So it's interesting here, John. This side is clearly thin. This side, I'm not sure this piece of it is thin. Just feel the difference here to like right here, right? I actually, so this is, we've got more Nordbach material here than we do here, okay? And so, that feels pretty good. That really feels pretty good.
Big repair.
Yeah.
This is pure.
I mean, we're talking this big, right? That's a lot, right? And again, we were being aggressive, multiple directions. I don't really know what to say. I mean, I mean, the good news is we replicated again what we haven't done the bot rail.
We'll do the bot rail.
Bot rail next. We've replicated what we saw. Okay, so this is.
So it's not so pretty, but we just threw some on here and threw some grit on it. Just to see how it sticks to the bot rail. The bot rail was unprepped.
Mm-hmm.
So
actually, John, hold on one second. I'm going to finish this one. We're going to do another video just to